I want to play a game. The situation you find yourself in is of your own doing. You, your girlfriend, and your friends are all racists.
You fuck! You get me out of here!
You have intimidated others based on their physical differences, but today, it is you who will run scared.
Welcome back to the Hiding for Horrors podcast, where we review horror movies and horror franchises. I'm Mark.
I'm Tawan.
I'm Maria.
And today we're reviewing Saw 7, aka Saw 3D, aka Saw the Final Chapter, released in 2010, directed by Kevin Gruder and story by Patrick Milton and Marcus Dunstan. Maria, can you give the people the plot summary?
As a fierce battle rages over Jigsaw's legacy, survivors seek support from a fellow survivor and self-help guru who has a few dark secrets of his own. Meanwhile, crooked cop Hoffman seeks revenge against Jigsaw's wife and an author who has his own story.
The plot of having a fake Jigsaw trap survivor was just... that was kind of smart. That I enjoyed. And it also had real world relevance. Because I don't know if you guys know, but there was a woman who pretended to be a 9/11 survivor, that she survived the Twin Towers falling, that she worked in one of the towers, and she faked it so good that she had other survivors survivors spouses and survivors rallying with her. She got a whole 9/11 support thing set up. There's a foundation that's still active and running because this woman helped set it up. And she wasn't even in the fucking building. She wasn't even in New York. She was across the fucking country and butt fuck nowhere, but she pretended to be a 9/11 survivor. So when I was watching this, I was like, oh, okay. This kind of had some real world relevance. I can see this happening. And plus, people are always crazy and, oh my god, the serial killer. Oh my god, I was close to that shooting. So I was like, hey, this could be an interesting story. But then the character sucked, and then I was like, oh, this character sucks. It's not given. I was excited when the movie first started and they first introduced him, and then it just sucked. And then overall with the movie, the 3D sucked. Some of the 3D shots were so obvious. The fake blood, the CGI was horrible. Some of the kill scenes were horrible. It's just and it also gives me the same look that Scream 4 gives me, which just looks like
Oh my yes,
someone
that's why I hate this movie.
yeah, someone smeared some shit on the camera lens and they forgot to wipe it off. I hated
It looks
that.
cheap.
It does, and this is fucking Saw. This is the seventh movie, which was supposed to be the final movie of the series, and this is what you gave us? This cheap shit? Come on! And this was supposed to be. Nah, I don't want to spoil that, but it's just bad. It just looks bad, and the story wasn't together, and that hurts because the writer and the director have been the same one, the same writing team for the last 3 movies. So you couldn't pull this story together. You couldn't I don't. But what about you, Maria? What are your thoughts on this movie overall?
I mean, I agree. I did think that the whole plot of oh, there's a fake Jigsaw survivor was cool. But it just kind of fell flat a little bit towards the middle. I don't know. It's just something about it that just didn't it just something was missing. And yeah, I don't know what filter or whatever they had on the camera, but it was very distracting. I found myself so focused or unfocused on the camera or the whole just the way it looks that I wasn't really paying attention to the story, to be honest. I disliked what they did to Jill. Jill did not deserve that. No way they had this fucking bear trap running from person to person throughout the series just for it to end on Jill, the wife. Like, I don't know. I felt so bad for her. Um,
They were trap teasing us with that trap for
yeah,
countless movies, and then when they finally get it, it's like it wasn't worth it because it isn't what I wanted to like be used for. Like,
yeah. Like I wanted it to be used on someone like that was awful, not Jill. Like, I don't know. Honestly, I think the best thing about the movie was Hoffman because that man is a psycho. He is like out of his damn mind and he's super smart. But even then, because this was like a dual, not even like a dual story. There was like three stories going on here. I don't even know. But like, so, it's like it wasn't really focused on Hoffman. It was on like some parts, but then like not really. I don't know. It was just kind of weird the way the story. I guess that's another thing. The story just felt super disconnected. Um, it just felt very like um just not put together well, I guess. And I also didn't really like the opening in this one because it was just, because you had people who were actually doing awful things throughout the series, and then the opening is because she was with two guys, which is like, I mean, it is bad, right? Like cheating is awful, but I just feel like they could have done something else that was, a little bit worse. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
No, I definitely get you. That made no. It really didn't make any sense to me. It's like, okay, so she's cheating. Okay, now what? It's like, okay, so now she deserves to die, or they deserve to have to kill one another to stay with her. Like, yes, situations have happened in real life where people have, done stuff like that because like someone's cheated or they wanted to like stay with someone, but you forcing someone into that is like that's not how we should be going about it.
Yeah, because not to mention, it was so public. It was such a public execution.
Which
And for
they
that to
never
be,
explain.
yeah, like it was like, I feel like they could have done something like a lot, like a, like an actual criminal. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that type of public execution should have been saved for something else where you're actually like, yeah, this person's horrible or just something, just not just cheating, like I feel like that could have been like a different, smaller, just different type of game. I don't know. But this movie just, I feel like I definitely see the potential and it just didn't live up to it.
I very much agree with you in that sense. This one is probably my least favorite out of all of them. Um, just because six had like a lot of good momentum going for it. With how it looked, the story, the game that was played in that one, how everything went about. Like it had a lot going for it, but going from six to this one, and like how Mark mentioned, it's the exact same team. It's like what like happened in that 1 year span since these movies are all like coming out like a year after each other. So like it's like what happened in that year span that we got to this. The look of this one was really bad, which once again, same director as the last movie, who brought it back because in five it looked like we mentioned that like five looked kind of off, like um what he usually did, and six gave us like that saw look, and then we get to this one and it's like super like high contrast and like saturated and it's like bright as shit throughout the movie. It made it like look really off, and I don't know if that's because of the 3D. Like I don't know if they had to do that because of the 3D, because I know that you do need like lighter stuff for those effects to show, but it looked really off in this one, and I was not a fan of like the overall look, which is the main thing you watching in the movie, and that in turn made some of the effects look off, like the blood and stuff like looked like had like a pinkish hue to it, almost like it didn't look like red all the time. It looked like it was like kind of like more of a brighter red or close to like a pink at times when it was going through that. And besides that part, though, just a lot of the story was, a bit off as well. I didn't mind the main game, as Mark mentioned, like the actual idea of the game and how it came about was actually pretty interesting from like the character Bobby and what he did, like what he said he did, and then putting him in the game to actually test his might. That was pretty interesting. Um, but just how we mentioned in some of the other games, like Six, for instance, I don't think everybody deserved to be a part of what happened there. Like in his game, like I don't think his publicist and like his attorney knew, if I recall, that he wasn't actually a part of any jigsaw traps in the past. They were just doing their jobs once again, and but at this point, like we're kind of far gone from it being like a jigsaw thing, and it's mostly just Hoffman doing his own thing now. And we know he's batshit crazy, so anything can come from him. But yeah, it was very some of it, like, it came out as very cruel.
Actually, I think his publicist knew. I don't think his. And I also think his lawyer knew, but I don't think his. I think his wife was the only one who wasn't in on it.
Okay,
But I could be wrong. But that's my interpretation, that the wife was the only one.
I
yeah, I
mean, that's
do.
definitely what Jigsaw implied. You know, like he was like, you're because I don't know if you noticed, but they did like a see no evil, hear no evil, and like speak no evil.
Mm,
Um, with I think the publicist, he like cut like her throat. So and he
yeah,
was like, oh,
so,
she never, yeah, and then with the lawyer, like they like, you know, stuck those thingies in her eyes, and then with the guy, well, I don't know, because he said, oh, he doesn't hear. Oh, I don't know what the hell he said. I don't know. But yeah, I guess I'm assuming they all knew.
yeah, I know
Um,
for sure that the wife didn't though.
that sucks. I'd be pissed.
Yeah, she definitely didn't know. Out of everybody, she deserved it the least, which was fucked up. That's why I was telling you, Mark, in the last episode that, well, like it was gonna be a fucked up trap for someone that didn't deserve it, and that's who I was talking about because she definitely didn't deserve that.
No, and they got her so bad. I heard that like being burned alive is probably one of the worst ones, but because they like um because that's like a medieval torture thing. They
Yeah,
I don't
freezing
remember what it was
whole.
called. Yeah, but it's so bad. You see her like her skin burning, and it's bad.
Well, since you guys kicked it off, let's talk about the traps. Uh, the traps that stood out for good or bad or indifferent. Haven't said that one in a while. But for me, I know you say you didn't like it, but I like the opening trap only because I like how initially it started. Like, okay, which one of us is gonna win? Which one is gonna win? And yeah, like having it set up to like, oh, she's cheating. It's bad. But upon rewatching it and upon watching the kill count, it's like, oh, like she's cheering them both on based off who she thinks is winning in the moment, and
Shit, I
that's
do
just
the
making it
same
personal.
probably.
Like you're already cheat. Like don't cheer anyone on. Just let one of them fucking kill each other. Like just sit your ass up there and be quiet and let one of them die. But no, she's like, you got this, you got this. And then when they both were just like, fuck this bitch, I was like, no. But like the reason they were all there in itself was kind of sexist and stupid and like ugh. But the fact that it was on display and that no one could break in, that is what made it good for me because I always wanted like a big on display. Everyone in this unnamed city can like watch it. So that is what made it cool for me. The bear trap was a letdown because not because like the trap itself, but because who was in it. Like finally getting to see the trap be like we've been teased this bear trap since the first movie with Amanda Young, and now we're finally getting to see it, and it's Jill, and I just like this isn't the character this should have been used on. Like it was just, but all the traps in the game were lackluster. But what about you, Tawan? What are your thoughts on the traps?
Um, I do want to mention something about the opening trap. Um, why did that one lady try to use her briefcase to open the glass like that was gonna do something?
Right, and not even like the hard side of the briefcase. Like,
She
lady, what was
literally
that
used
gonna
the
do?
left side. Like what? Like literally, what was that gonna do? um, as far as the other ones though, throughout the movie, yes, it was very satisfying to finally see the reverse bear trap get used. Um, it was kind of worth the wait a little bit, but I yes, the movie was mean to Jill, but I honestly don't care who was in the trap as long as I saw it get used at least once. But the movie was mean to Jill. Um, outside of that, though, the only other one that was like egregious was Bobby's wife, like getting killed at a brazen bull. Like that is crazy. Like that's actually like it's crazy because that's like an actual old form of torture, as Maria mentioned, and from someone that really didn't deserve it. And we just got to sit here and watch this lady get like burned alive in like the one of the worst ways possible. That's probably one of the worst traps. Like not from like a design standpoint, but from like actually having to deal with that trap.
What about you, Maria? What are some traps that stood out for you?
Well, I mean, I already talked about how I feel about Jill's trap. I mean, I guess it's like a huge surprise because you see how it kind of like goes around, obviously, and the person that it goes to is his wife. So I can't even imagine how, if he was alive, how he'd feel about that. And then I also just can't even like the first trap. Yeah, I just wish it was different circumstances, different people. And yeah, that girl definitely shot herself in the foot, trying to, like, she should have just kept quiet. She should have just been like, well, and yeah, I feel like if those people tried hard enough, they could have definitely have gotten in there. They didn't. I guess. But, okay. So one of the traps that also stood out is a trap with like the guy who was blind, because I cannot believe that he threw that key at him. Like, how? There's no way he was gonna catch that. No way. Like there's just no way. I don't know. I don't know. Don't know why he thought that was smart. Like he was gonna die regardless. But that's just me, I guess. Um, because he lost like every game. Oh, and the I guess one that did stand out was the game for the publicist, because that key was like inside her, and he had to like pull it out. Ugh. Like she was bleeding even before he like got the whole key out. I can't. That was a lot. Like, ugh, that was disgusting. And then um, I feel like the one for the lawyer, not that it was an easy one, but I feel like it's one that he could have like won if he really tried. You know, like he, I guess he kind of just got what he wanted, right? Like he was in a game, and he just sucked at all of them. He was not gonna make it. And again, I do feel bad for like the wife, like getting like burnt like that was just she just didn't really do anything. She just married the wrong guy. She really thought he was in a trap. Like what else would she have thought? And then just for her to kind of die because of it, I don't know. I felt really bad for her.
Yeah, this last game felt like stupid and petty almost. Like it just Like in the old in the past games, everyone who was connected to the main game player, it felt like they were supposed to be there. Like you understood it. This time it's just like they didn't make him be like, oh, I survived Jigsaw. Like they weren't a part of his initial lie. Why is everyone being punished? Publicists I get, but everyone else was just like uncalled for.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like honestly, I feel like out of all of them, the publicist should have gotten it the most. Like she was the one. I mean, from what we can see, right? She was the one that was kind of like really trying to create this story and really just micromanaging everything so that certain things look a certain way. Um, but I mean, I don't know. It's just oh, but one game that I thought was cool was the one with like the guys that were in that car because they were like racist and like he had to like peel his skin and there was like
Oh
a
my
Yes,
god,
I
that was so
forgot.
gross.
I
It
forgot
was
about that one.
so
I knew
yeah
I was missing one. I forgot about that one.
because it was like one
R.I.P.
train with
Chester.
like, four people. It was crazy.
Yes, that was a good one. That was a good one too. I was like, I knew I was forgetting one, but I couldn't remember. But yes, that was a really good trap. How that one all
No,
played
but
out.
watching his like skin peel as like it was too much. It was too much. I couldn't. Good though.
No, but also the guy who got his limbs ripped off. I was
Yes.
Yes,
It
like,
was
right. But yeah, R.I.P. Chester. I was like, oh my god. I was like, no way. I totally forgot he was in the movie, and then I remembered as soon as I saw him. I was like, oh yeah, I remember this actually. Um, but yeah, that was it. I think for the traps.
well, I want to talk about some scenes that stood out for us, good, bad, or indifferent. And I have to say that opening scene and seeing Dr. Gordon, I was like, what the fuck is this? What is this? And just like seeing him cauterize his like leg, and it's just like so he's been alive this entire time, and the FBI agents ain't talked to this man. All the cops who went after Jigsaw ain't talked to this man, but he's just fucking out here alive. Like, come on now, come on. And then like seeing how he fit, like okay, now I don't want to go too deep in that until we get to that, but like yeah, like that was a good scene. Um, all the scenes with Hoffman just felt erratic and all over the place. They kind of weren't enjoyable. I was kind of annoyed every time I saw Hoffman on the screen until that last scene. Okay, that scene where he just like walks away from the explosion looked so bad. That explosion
oh yeah,
behind
it
him
did.
looks so fake, so CGI. I was like, what super action movie walk away from the explosion shit is this? Like this is not a fucking Saw movie. But when he got his ass whooped by Hoffman, I mean by Dr. Gordon and those two goons, I was like, okay, this kind of saved the scene, but overall trash. What about you, Tamon? What are some scenes that stood out?
One scene that definitely stood out for me was Gordon fucking waking up, not waking up, but getting out of that body bag and just going crazy on the fucking police department in his search for Jill. Like they, like we thought he was doing on his little John Wick shit in the last movie. They said nah, like this man was running up on people, stabbing them in the neck, like he was on like some other like next level shit. Like as far as the way that he went about, like killing everybody. Like how the fuck did he know that man was behind that two-way glass, like right in that specific spot to where he could just shoot him in the eye. Like he was on some different shit there. Um, besides that, I I was also surprised at like the whole Dr. Gordon thing as well, and that like whole scene and montage. That was pretty like cool to see. Um, Besides those ones, though, I don't think I have any other like specific like scenes that like stood out to me like that.
Maria, what about you? What are some scenes that stood out?
Um. Oh, one scene that I can think about right now that I thought was so stupid was when Hoffman came and killed those two cops, and then Jill was running for her life, and she goes to hide in the most obvious fucking spot. I was like, bitch, come on, like break a fucking window, something. But she just goes into the room, gets into this big ass corner where nothing is covering her, and just sits down. And I was like, girl, come on, like. And then, not to mention, he goes in and he's like, "Oh, I can't see anybody in here," and then turns around and like they don't show us, right? Because it's so fucking obvious that she's right there, like right. I don't know, like they did Jill so bogus in this movie. I don't know, like I don't know, but and that's one scene that I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, like Jill, come on, like you're literally you like I don't know, because Hoffman was psychotic. Like that man was like out of his damn mind. Um, I don't know. I don't know what was up with her in that scene. But another scene, I did like the scenes with Dr. Gordon. I honestly I knew as soon as he like went on screen, I was like, he's gonna be a part of it somehow. In some way or another. And when they showed us like he's the doctor who's been like doing all the doctor stuff, I guess, it made so much sense. I was like,
Yeah, it
you know,
actually did.
yeah, I was like, well, who, for a second, I thought maybe it might have been John, but then, like, if you think about it, John was really kind of just an engineer. And I thought it was so, I actually thought it was pretty cool. I actually really liked that. Though, when Dr. Gordon was like, oh, yeah, like, John told me to take care of his wife. She's dead. Like, good job of you taking care of her, I guess. Jesus Christ. And like on top of that, she was caught in a fucking trap. I don't know. That's just me, I guess. um, what else? What's another scene? Um,
He took care of her by avenging her death, but like, I'd rather you take care of me by keeping me alive.
Exactly.
and not being caught in a trap. Like, Jesus, I don't know. I don't know when he said, yeah, John told me to take care of her. Where were you then? He came up with two people. He had obviously apparently he had the fucking manpower. I don't know. Like I don't know, man. Maybe he wanted Jill to die. I don't know. But anyway, um what's another one? Another scene. I think that's it. Honestly, I didn't really like the scenes with that other detective. I don't remember what his name was because they made kind of no sense, to be honest. Like he was supposed to be like, the other lead detective, but it just like I don't know, it didn't make sense. I don't think we spent too much time in that storyline to make sense. You know what I mean? Like we definitely got a lot of Hoffman, we got a lot of Bobby, but like the other detective, he was technically supposed to be like, another part of the story, but it didn't really make any sense. So all those scenes I did not like. I was just confused, and honestly just didn't really care for them. I was not attached at all to this guy. I don't even remember his name. So, yeah, well, I guess that's it then.
Well, let's move on to the characters then. Let's start with the man of the movie. Let's start with Bobby, the fake Jigsaw survivor. Again, like when they introduced the character, I was like, okay, this is a new perspective. This is going to be good. And then it just felt like a huge letdown for the rest of the movie. But what about you, Tuan? What are your thoughts on Bobby?
Yeah, I agree. So like the setup for Bobby and his character was really good because I could probably see it happening TBH. Um, people like fake like they've been like in situations like you mentioned earlier with the whole 9/11 thing. Like people have faked being in certain situations or things for clout or just that little like tinge of fame things of that matter, or manipulating events to make it seem like they were like a part of it. uh that just actually made me think of another movie. I think actually, Maria, it was a movie I told you about, the one called Not Okay, which the girl faked like she was at a fucking um like terrorist attack for like social clout and shit like that. But the whole setup with that was really cool. But once we actually got to his game, it was kind of boring. But I will say that uh he was trying a bit. Like he definitely did a lot to himself to try to get out of the situation. Like with um the attorney or his attorney, I think he had to spike himself on the side in the ribs in order to like lift that like contraption up. Like he did that. He like knocked two of his teeth out to get the code on it. He actually did put those like hooks in his like pec muscle so that he could try to pull himself up and save his wife. So I mean, he did try, but um going about the way that he did to even get to that point and playing in the face of actual victims is still crazy. And I mean, I don't, as far as like a lot of other people, I don't feel as bad for him getting put in the game.
Maria, any thoughts on Bobby?
Yeah, Bobby. I mean, I do agree that his storyline did sound very interesting. You know, like for him to pretend to be a survivor and then not be a survivor. Um, I mean, I did remember his story. I did remember thinking about his story, being like, that doesn't sound like possible, but what do I know? But I do feel like his games definitely lacked a bit. Um, I would have, I guess, especially because in the last movie we got like 10 people in it, and I feel like here, I mean, it did seem, I guess, like a petty game, because they had him do the fucking trap that he kept saying that he was doing. But like, I think it's also just about, because he like monetized on everything, you know what I mean? And he like was like using actual survivors like pain and like and their stories to get money, which I mean, I kind of feel like he deserved it a little bit. Um, because he was just definitely giving this sob story all because he needed money. He didn't want his wife to keep thinking he was a loser. Like, and what else? And then because I remember like in the opening scene, well, not that opening scene, but the scene with him when he's like talking about his story, and he was supposed to like bring out his wife, but he didn't. He just kept going on with the story, and he got yelled
Yeah,
at by his publicist. I feel like the only reason he didn't bring out his wife is because he was just enjoying the fucking limelight so much that he didn't want to share it with his wife. You know what I mean?
yeah, I believe that too.
Like that's kind of what it seemed like to me, at least. So I mean, not saying he deserved the trap because the other people in there didn't deserve it, or at least his wife didn't deserve it. But I also can see why he was put in a trap. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But I definitely feel like it did lack.
Well, Maria, let's talk about Dr. Gordon. Was it a big surprise to see him come back when you saw this movie initially?
It was like I honestly wasn't when I first saw it. I definitely was not expecting him to be there. But honestly, as soon as I saw him, though, I was like, he's gonna be a part of it some way, somehow. He's gonna be a part of it, and it's gonna be this whole thing. I mean, it was this whole thing, right? But like, um, it just. I guess what I'm trying to say is that seeing him though, it made a lot of sense. Like yeah, like who else is gonna put a key behind this guy's eye. Like, who else is gonna like put a key in a guy's stomach? And it made sense actually. I was like, wow, because at first I guess because you think Jigsaw or John Kramer, he's so smart, like maybe he did it, but no, like it was an actual doctor, which makes sense. And I actually did enjoy having him back. I did enjoy that little like um the little that extra plot that we got. And I liked how he did definitely seem not broken, but the games definitely changed him, and you can see it. I did like seeing him at the end where, it all goes back to that room, and that's where he put Hoffman. And well, it was more like a jail sentence for Hoffman for all the things he was doing. Um, yeah, so I thought honestly, I did like having him back, and I think it definitely helped the movie a lot. So glad to have him.
Tuan.
Yeah, I also didn't mind that he was back, and I agree, Maria, that it does like fill in a couple like mini gaps that stuff that you may not have thought of, but it makes it make more sense in that like certain things of how like certain traps were able to go off because of like Gordon actually being alive and being able like being a surgeon and able to actually do all of that. So that makes like complete sense in that regard. Um, and always seeing it was just good to have someone that wasn't, I guess, Hoffman. Like, even though he was still doing like Jigsaw's biddings, Hoffman was like so far gone at this point where you was just wondering like, okay, who's gonna stop this man? Like, if Gordon wasn't the one to do it, Hoffman would have just got away scot free, like with everything. Like there's like nobody else who in my mind I could think would have been able to put a stop to what he was doing. So we like having it be Gordon, who we saw in the first one, and got out of his trap, and has also been working under Jigsaw this whole time. I mean, it makes the most sense there, and it's like not like it's like not happened before. We saw how once Hoffman was brought into the picture, how early on he was a part of a lot of the stuff. Um, even so far as like the first and second movie, and we got him mainly in the fourth one for the most part. So it was um, good to have that little connection, but also someone there who could actually put a stop to what Hoffman was doing.
Yeah, I liked seeing Gordon back. Like it tied up all those loose ends, and when they showed all the flashbacks to show like how he's been involved in every single movie behind the scenes, it was pretty good. And yeah, definitely he was definitely needed to put a stop to Hoffman because that was out of fucking control. But let's talk about Jill, Jigsaw's wife. I feel like she got an ending that wasn't deserved because I feel like Jill hadn't done enough to deserve the bear trap. Like, like what did Jill do in all the movies that she was in that like constituted her to get that trap?
She put Hoffman in it.
Well,
That's
go
pretty
ahead,
much
Tom. What are
it.
your thoughts on Jill?
Yeah, but like, yeah, like that. I would say that's pretty much it for her. Like Hoffman only did that as like retaliation, and but like, well, one, he was gonna kill her like either way, like whether it was the bear trap or not. But the fact that he found that and was able to put that on her after she did the same thing to him, like that just made it even like more of a reason for him to, use it. And this movie was not really that good to Jill either. Like they were kind of having her as not like a jigsaw, but as someone who could do the biddings, not be as involved, but also was still kind of ahead of the curve a bit. But we get to this one, and she's being protected by the police the whole time. Um, they put her in that weird dream sequence for some reason, which I didn't understand. Like, it was just so random, like how that happened, or why that happened, and also, her getting like killed in the bear trap. I personally didn't really care, like whichever way they went about putting someone in there. It just so happened to be her, but yeah, she didn't really get much to do as we thought. Like, as we thought, because going on from when she was introduced in like the most recent in like the later sequels, she was actually kind of given a role in a sense, and also a part of the bigger plan.
Maria, what are your thoughts on Jill?
I mean, I've already said this, but like, yeah, I feel like this movie was just not kind to Jill, and I felt kind of like bad for. I don't know. I just definitely did not like the fact that like the bear trap was kind of wasted on her because I would have liked to have seen it on a different character. Like I don't know. I just thought that would have been cool. Um, I mean, I guess it's a whole like circle where the person that gets it is John's wife. Um, but it is what it is. But I yeah, and I agree with Tuan. Like the dream sequence made no sense, and I was very confused. I mean, I feel like it was just a way for them to do like a 3D thing,
True.
but it was just so weird because it was like she had the dream and then she like disappeared again for like 30 minutes. Like it just she just felt like it just felt like this movie had a lot going on, which including Jill. I feel like she didn't really like besides I guess moving stuff around for John, like beyond the grave. I just feel like like if she would have been out of the movie, I think things would have been the same. You know what I mean? Like, and honestly, I don't really like the fact that John brought his wife into all of this. I liked her more as we thought of her like in the beginning as her being like an opposing, force against John and something from his past. I liked her better like that than being like a participant.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I feel like it kind of just, I feel like it took away from her character, and it took away like from what they both went through, and she just became another accomplice, and that's it. You know, that's kind of what it dwindled down to. Um, and then just for her to be killed by Hoffman, who was then trapped by Gordon. I don't know. I think she deserved more if she was going to be John's wife. Um, I don't know. Like maybe she had her own game. That would have been cool. But no. She was just a little. She was just out here delivering envelopes for John, which is like, I guess. But she was just kind of there, I guess. I definitely feel like they did her dirty in this movie, but yeah, that's it.
Well, Maria, what are your thoughts on Detective Hoffman?
He was fucking nuts. Like I don't even like. He was straight up just crazy. Honestly, because okay, I thought the first trap was a little like ridiculous. Like the reasoning behind it was a little ridiculous, especially for like that big of a trap. Um, and honestly, when I first saw that trap, I thought it was just a way of them telling us that Hoffman was kind of just losing it and just putting people in traps that did even like the little like the smallest thing wrong. Yeah, like, you know what I mean?
That
I
would have
thought he
been
was just
actually really cool.
Yeah, right? Like if he's just putting people in traps just because, you know? But then, but then no. It really was just an opening. So that was a little disappointing. I mean, he was super smart throughout the movie. He had literally everything he had planned everything out. He was like, he had hacked into the fucking like cameras at the police station. He killed 9 fucking cops. Um, I just feel like because of Bobby's game, I don't know. I would have liked to have seen more of Hoffman in this movie, to be honest. It just felt like they had a lot going on. Like they were kind of like we were definitely going back and forth between like 4 different stories that I feel like if they would have focused a little bit more on Hoffman and him kind of just um escalating, but also like um like losing it a bit. I feel like that honestly, I feel like that would have been pretty cool. And then for like a background character also doing their own games, and that would have been Gordon. That would have been really cool actually. Um but I mean I actually like Gordon, to be honest. I like how unhinged he is. And at the same time he's still making these games for John. you know? Like he's crazy, but he still has that like mentality of, I gotta do what John wants me to do anyway. That's very interesting, you know what I mean? But yeah, he was crazy. He was definitely crazy. I feel like his ending, I mean, I actually don't remember if this is where his story ends, but I feel like, I mean, it's definitely cool to see, the box again. And then this time it's, Gordon putting someone in there. And I mean, I like, they're so petty when like he's walking out and he sees his leg. I was like, or his foot.
Oh
And they
yeah.
they make it into like a whole thing. They made sure that he knows that that's his foot. I was like, like they never. Well, I mean, well, whatever. But like, it was definitely cool to see that. But I don't know. I would have liked to see a little bit more for Hoffman, especially for all the things he's done, because he's killed a lot of people, like a lot of people, kind of just because. So yeah.
All right. What are your thoughts on Jigsaw? The little that we saw of him. Anyone?
We needed more of them. I mean, we know, like, yes, this man's been dead, but I mean, y'all already been milking it this much. Like, what's a little more go do at this point? We're getting a new movie that's placed in between the first two, just to give us more Kramer. Because, like, yeah, he's shitty, but I mean, he's like the bread and butter of the whole like franchise, like literally the voice of the franchise, and this movie gave us the least amount of him. Where I feel I don't know what gaps more needed to be filled, but I mean, considering the fact that Gordon is alive, I feel like they could have put some more flashbacks in of them. I mean, it's not it's not like much of anything considering the fact that they like go about they go about what's the word I'm looking for. It's not much of anything considering they already go through with all the flashbacks they do in these movies. So what's a couple of more go do? um, but yeah, he didn't really get to do anything, especially this being the last outing. Like I don't know, it could have been like an extra reveal or anything like that, but it wasn't really there for that. And I mean, it's fine. It doesn't like take away from what we got in the movie, but I mean, since it was the last one at the time. I mean, we could have got some more of him.
I agree. I mean, at this point, they were kind of just putting him in there just for us to be like, oh my god, Jigsaw. But other than that, I mean, he was just because I mean, the main thing is just his interaction with Bobby and being like, him, Jigsaw insinuating like, I know you're fucking lying, but I mean, I guess, I mean, they do keep bringing him back to life, like, and it's like for what, I guess cool to see him, but then it's like. He just, and at this point, he just definitely doesn't really add much to the story.
Hmm.
Besides, I mean, besides him, like in the video, but other than that, it's just, it's like just let him die. I guess it is cool to see that he's still kind of controlling things like beyond the grave. Like he made all these tapes for all these people, you know. But I mean, I guess he was. I guess it was cool to see him, but other than that, it wasn't really much.
Well, we've come to the end, but not quite the end. Tuan, can you give the people the behind the scenes info and facts?
Saw 3D, the final chapter, 7, whatever you choose to call it, had a budget of $17 million. Dollars. It brought in a box office of 136.2 million. Some interesting facts. Carrie Ellis reprised his role as Dr. Gordon from Saw for this film. Disputes over his salary caused him to file a lawsuit and, as a result, declined opportunities to return for earlier sequels when offered. Even in areas of their story that could have reused older first movie scenes of Lawrence Gordon, because that would add an extra layer to the pay dispute problem. Despite receiving top billing and portraying the main villain, Tobin Bell has only 3 minutes of screen time throughout the whole movie. The Garage Trap was written for an earlier film in the series, but the producers felt it was too disturbing to show in a film. For an unknown reason, they allowed it to be filmed for this movie. Originally intended by the writers to be two films, Saw the Final Chapters Part 1 and 2, with Carrie Elwes' return being the finale of Part 1, and then Part 2 would tie everything up. After Saw 6 didn't do as well in the box office, Lionsgate decided that the two parts would be turned into a single film. And Gabby West, who played Kara within the Garage Trap, won her role in this film through the second season of Scream Queens. Some critics' reactions: the film currently sits at a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. E Online gave the film a B. They called the film score over the top and in your face, while admitting the film has some unusual amount of self-parody. They said the central storyline of the films was beginning to feel played out. Empire gave the film 2 out of 5 stars, calling it a step down from the last year's more poignant Saw 6. They criticized the repetition of the plot, but thought bringing back Jigsaw survivors was a nice idea. The Orlando Sentinel gave the film 1 out of 5 stars, saying, "It's all bunk and has been for years. These are all no-win scenarios."
Well, it looks like the people didn't really like Saw 7 3D final chapter. But what about us? Do we cash or pass? Maria, do you cash or pass Saw 7?
I'll honest. I don't know. I'm kind of like in between, cause like there are some things I liked about it, but I did find myself a lot like thinking like, why would they do that? That's so weird. Um, I guess I'll pass because there was some things in there that did seem a little like comedic, and there was some scenes that I was just like, no way. Look, I just cannot get over the fact that Jill hid in the most obvious spot. I cannot I don't know. She had so much, you know. She just has so many options. I don't know, but I also didn't like the way they treated her in here. It was cool to see that Bear Trap just didn't like that it was on her. And they just honestly, this movie just had a lot going on, and the filter of the movie just made me just I caught myself looking at the filter more than whatever the hell was going on in the movie a lot. So I'll pass on Saw 7.
Swan, what about you? Do you cash or pass Saw 3D?
I pass on Saw 3D, but I cash on finally seeing the bear trap in the movies and it actually working. Um, but I pass mainly because I don't I don't know. This one didn't really feel up to par after what we got in 6. I feel like 6 was like pretty like a really good one as far as the sequels went, past like 2. Because I think, in my opinion, I feel like 2 was my favorite of like the original 7. But after 2, the sequels get kind of but 6 was like a really good one. And then, coming off of that one, we get this one, which was the same exact team, director, all that stuff. And I don't feel it really um like held up as much as I thought it could have. And yes, Gordon returning was a nice touch and a good twist for like the movie, but I don't think it was enough to like really save it in a sense, because while he was in it, um he wasn't in it much. Like, he probably got just a couple more minutes of screen time than um Tobin Bell did as Kramer in here. And there wasn't much going on. I really didn't care for Bobby in his game. Like, the actual um, story behind where he got to and why he's in the game sounds better than the actual like game that he was put in. Um, and Hoffman was just unhinged throughout the whole movie. So I think I would give this one a pass, but look up the Reverse Bear Trap on YouTube if you don't want to watch this movie.
I have to say, this is a three-way pass because for this to be intended to originally be the last one of this of the franchise, it's not good. It's not a good ending. Like, yeah, the twist to bring back Gordon and to see that he was behind the scenes the entire time since the first one, amazing. But from killing Jill to Hoffman not really getting his comeuppance until like the last like minute to the game itself, it just felt like disconnected. Like Maria said, there are like three different stories going on, and they barely tied together. And I just felt like for this to be the last movie, the game should have had different players, and it should have been higher stakes. Like I don't know. It was just a lackluster finale of sorts. So it's a pass for me. But come back next week, guys, because we're reviewing Jigsaw. Now, like I've said, I had never seen 5, 6, and 7. But I did see Jigsaw at least once. Not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing, but join us next week for Jigsaw. Good night.
Should we do an intro?
The Haddonfield Horrors Podcast is a Letters to Media production. If you like this episode, please be sure to check out Haddonfield Horrors' past reviews from big franchises like Halloween, Friday the 13th, and the Chucky franchise, or one-off reviews like Us and Midsommar. You can follow Haddonfield Horrors on Instagram and TikTok, where the host posts updates and mini reviews. Full episodes are available on several podcasting platforms. If you're listening to us on YouTube, don't forget to please like and subscribe. Haddonfield Horror is produced by Mark Smart, Maria Perez, and Tawan Griffin. Edited by Mark Smart. Theme by Lethal Injections.